the blessings you was given, with all the wonderful works of your exalting. We are the children of Israel. The children of Israel. He's our King. His name is Almighty. He will be here very soon. We will worship at His feet. Oh, so proud we live for you. He will restore all earth and make it pure. We praise Him as Israel. We are the children of Israel. He's our King. His name is Almighty. He will be here very soon. He's our Lord. He's our King. His name is Almighty. He will be here very soon. He will be here very soon. Yahuah will be here very soon.
Hear, O Israel, Yahuah or Alahim. Yahuah is one. And you shall love Yahuah your Alahim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your might. And those words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. And the second one is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Nazarene channel. Ana hagafen ataha Nazarem. Still daylight here in Texas, so the Shabbat hasn't officially started yet, but we are here nevertheless on time. And we're here to study Yahuwah's word, get to know Yahuah, and pursue to know Yahuwah. I hope everybody had a wonderful week. I had some out-of-town company come in, stay with us for a few days, and that was always nice. And you always hate to see them leave. It always seems kind of lonely after you've had company around and then they leave. But nevertheless, it's wonderful to have them while they're here. And the rest of the week was okay. Not too bad. Can't complain, I guess. Yahuwah's will be done. So we got another study here. And here we are assembled again in order to learn out of Yahuwah's words and be taught by Yahuwah. So this evening's study will be similar to some other studies we've had before. My glasses broke, so now I got these different glasses on. A little bit irritating, but I'm gonna try to get by. I don't know, the frame broke out of the ones I usually wear. The frame broke. I don't know if you can see that or not. That there, and of course the lens fell out. So I'm stuck with these ones. Kind of irritating me, but anyway, we've talked about this subject before, and it's kind of like set apartness, Qodeshim. Be Qodesh, and then Qodeshim would be plural for all of us to be Qodeshim, to be set apart ones, the set apart ones. And this time we're going to be talking a little bit different about it. It's not so much as a broad or general topic, but Qodesh, as we've talked about in the past, we were to set ourselves apart. Now, Yahuwah sets us apart, calls us out of the world, and so we try to come out of the world as far as possible, not engaging in the lust of the world, the pleasures of the world, trying to remove ourselves from the world as much as possible so that we're not in love with the world, but in love with Yahusha. We try to separate ourselves from the world, from our fleshly body and the lust of the flesh, the works of the flesh, and we try to separate ourselves from wickedness, evil, satanic influence, demonic attacks and influence, and try to stay away from our three enemies, right? The world, our flesh, and Satan and his demons. But this time we're going to go with this, the Qodeshim, the set apart ones, and more of, in our reality, what do we do to do that, And so what does it kind of take? What does it really mean as we walk in this reality, in these fleshly bodies, as we continue to live in this fallen world? That's we're saturated in it, we're engulfed in it, we're encompassed in it. So how do we keep ourselves set apart in our reality, in this fallen world? So it's kind of like inside looking out this time, rather than being on the outside looking in, as we do as a spiritual child. Okay, so a little bit different, but still, we've talked about this before, but we need to talk about it some more because time is getting close. The end is getting more near than when we first believed. And we need to, I think we all need to get a really good understanding on this. And so by hopefully turning it inside out and get a different scope on it, we'll all be able to understand what it means to when Yahuah commands us to be set apart. Okay, even in this fallen world that we remain in our reality. The spiritual realm is totally different, and we've already talked about that. Okay, so that's what this lesson or the study will be about this evening. Hopefully we all come out of it a little bit wiser. So let me say hello to a few people, and then we'll get started on this vital subject this evening, presented by Yahuah. All right. Levi Davis, glad you're here, brother. Sandra Brunston, glad you're here, sister. Peggy Russell, glad you're here, sister. Mr. Three Jobs, glad you're here, John. Sharon, glad you're here. You see your little blue wrench there, huh, Brother John? Oh, you earned it, man. Work hard in the harvest, brother. Be a laborer for Yahuah and work hard. Brother Lou, glad you're here. Sister Phyllis, glad you're here. Sharon C., glad you're here. Brother Ike, glad you're here, man. Lottie, granddaughter Lottie, glad you're here, sweetheart. Kate Connell, glad you're here, sister. Rose Wright, glad you're here, sister. Phil Dickey, glad you're here, brother. Rose Wright, glad you're here, sister. In a little while. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Shabbat. Excellent. Glad you're here, Sister Yami. Let me take a wild and crazy stab at this, but I'm going to go way out on the limb, and I'm going to take a wild guess and say that Brother Raul is also watching. So welcome, Brother Raul. Yahuah is working on me. Glad you're here. Latter Rain, glad you're here, sister. Modern Women's Transformation, glad you're here. Okay, so we have people trickling in, but we're going to go ahead and get started here on this evening's study. Shouldn't be too long this evening. At least I ain't planning on it being, but you know how that can go. So, welcome, everybody. If I missed you, welcome. Everybody's welcome here on this channel. The Nazarene are only here to help. We're not here to make anybody stumble. We're not here to argue or quarrel with you about your religion. We're not here to make you feel bad or hurt your feelings. We're only here to magnify Yahuah, to teach others Yahuah's way through us, through his teachings and his word of truth. And we're just here to help you. That's it. We're not here to harm you at all. So come on, and everybody's welcome. Relax, enjoy the study, pray, worship Yahuah, listen to his words of truth, and grow in the Ruach. So the Qodeshim, the set apart ones, which is otherwise known as holy ones in some circles. I am holy, be holy, I am holy. But Netzarim don't really use those words. We prefer to stick closer to the Hebrew language. And so instead of using the holy ones, we use the set apart ones, the Qodeshim in Hebrew. Okay. So Yahuah tells Moses in the opening chapter 19, he says, 19:1 and 2, he says, speak to the entire, and Yahuah spoke to Moses, saying, speak to all the congregation of the children of Yisrael, and say to them, be set apart, for I, Yahuah, your Alahim, am set apart. And so we see here that it's a command. And so since it's a command to be Kadesh, or to be set apart, a direct command from Yahuah, in the mouth of Yahuah himself, then we really need to understand what this means and how we can do this as we walk in this fallen world. I mean, everywhere we go, it seems we're surrounded, and we're encircled, we're engulfed in wickedness and evil. It abounds all around us, almost to the point that sometimes we feel engulfed in it. And so as we walk in the flesh, in this literal world, we get contaminated. It's how can you not be touched or contaminated by the wickedness, the evil, and the sin in this world when you're walking in it? And so this, in a literal sense, we, have a battle on our hands. All right. We succumb to our surroundings and our reality because we're living here in it. It's like being thrown in a pool of water. How do you get thrown into a pool of water and don't get wet? Right? Same thing. How do we get tossed into this fallen, wicked, and evil world and not get contaminated? So the set apart command begins with Yahuah commanding all of Israel to be set apart, because Yahuah himself is set apart. Now, Yahuah is not going to tell us to do something that's impossible. I don't see where Yahuah would tell us to be set apart from this fallen world and it would be impossible. So some people act like it's impossible. Oh, it's impossible. You can't escape this world, and not sin, and it's impossible to live here and not sin. But that cannot be true, because Yahuah told us to be set apart, and I don't see him lying or giving us a command that's impossible. So it must be attainable. So some people think it's not, but I'm going to have to go against them on that and say, yes, it is possible. It is attainable, because Yahuah gave us the command. Why would you think he'd give you a command that you couldn't do? Yahuah is not like that. He's not going to do that. So set apartness is something that each person is absolutely capable of. Since our set apart Aloha would not demand from us something we are incapable of doing, nor would he judge us when we fail. If it was impossible for us to do it, he would not judge us when we fail. I mean, it would be ridiculous to think that. So although many deny our capabilities and our capacity for set apartness or holiness, if you're new here, okay, it's holiness, maybe what you're used to hearing. But like I said before, we use set apartness. And most do not know what it even means to be set apart. Probably the majority of people don't even understand what that means when you say Yahuah commanded us to be set apart. They do not know what it means. And so hopefully by the end of this evening's study, we'll all understand it and we'll all know what it means, even within this literal, falling, wicked, evil world we're saturated in here. So since the Hebrew word Qodesh, and the related word Qodeshim, which obviously just refers to more than one person, means set apart, sanctified, or holiness for some of you. So we understand from the opening verses of the verse of Leviticus 19 that a person set aside for the service of Yahuah must be Kadesh, because Yahuah is Kadesh. All right. So there's a Hebrew song of worship called Here Is My Life in English. And it highlights the deep longing that Yahuah places in the hearts of sincere believers to be set apart and pleasing to him. And the main course of this song says this: Here is my life, I give it to you. My heart, my soul, may your will be done in me. Make me set apart, Kadesh, before your eyes. So this is an important concept in the Hebrew language, the Hebrew culture, the Hebrew understanding of scriptures, and so forth and so on. So it shows that Big Brother understood the set apart command, and it's so this is something that we also need to come back into understanding and understand it and perform the set apart command and be obedient to it as well. So what does true set apartness really look like here in this world? Most people have their own preconceived notions of set apartness based on preferences, their upbringing, and even systems of philosophy and ethics. But this little song, these little lines that we read, especially that last one that says, make me set apart before your eyes, spotlights the truth that it is Yahuah who makes us set apart. So it's not us, but it is Yahuah. Furthermore, it is his standard of set apartness that counts, not our interpretation of it. Although Paul cautions believers in Romans 12:17 to be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone, we must remember that not everyone has a handle or good understanding on what is set apart, since it stems from a relationship with Yahuah and a deep knowledge of his word. We look into Romans 17, we'll see Paul's recommendation. So you want to go to Romans 12:17. I am in the BYNV, is what I'll be reading out of this evening. So it's Romans 12:17 through 21. Says, repay no one evil for evil. Respect what is right in the sight of all men. If possible, on your part, be at peace with all men. Beloved, do not revenge yourselves, but give place to the wrath. For it has been written, vengeance is mine, I shall repay, says Yahuah. Instead, if your enemy hungers, feed him. If he thirsts, give him a drink. For in so doing, you shall heap coals of fire on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So here we see that Paul is explaining to us that we should not try to take vengeance on people that anger us, people that hate us, people that show us disrespect and hurt our feelings. Instead, we should feed them and give them water, give them something to drink. And we should, instead of reacting to them on their level, which would not be set apart, but it would be on their level with evil, trading evil for evil. We're to overcome that evil, overcome the evil with good, because that sets us apart then. So we're not taking place in their evil, in their anger, in their hatred, but we are repelling it, and we are acting in opposition to that which sets us apart in this literal world. Let's look at chapter 13 while we're here in Romans. Chapter 13 of Romans, folks, while we're on this subject, very good subject here. Let every being be in subjection to the governing authorities. For there is no authority except from Yahuah, and the authorities that exist are appointed by Yahuah. All right, so we need to be subjected to the governing authorities, to the rules of the land, because it's Yahuah who has appointed these government officials and put them in charge of the evildoers. And so when we subject ourselves to it, then we become set apart from the evildoers, from the criminals, from the lawless, by subjecting ourselves to the laws of the land in this literal world. And the authorities that exist are appointed by Yahuah. So why would you go against them if Yahuah is the one that appointed them? You see that? That sets you apart. So he who opposes the authority withstands the instruction of Yahuah. See that? Don't forget, we're talking literal here now. We're in this mess. We go through the rebirth. We're born again from above. We have a heavenly or a spiritual father now, Yahuah. We're spiritual children. We are no longer the same. Okay. And so Yahuah sets us apart from those that don't believe. All right. But that's in the spiritual realm. And we obey his spiritual laws, his spiritual commands, because the Torah is spiritual. The Torah is spiritual. And so we're spiritual children. But here in our reality, we're still walking in this dust in these fleshly bodies. Look at that flesh hanging off of me. I'm still in this fleshly body, in this reality, literal. And we're saturated in this filth, this wickedness and this evil. How do we deal with it? And this is what it's telling us to do. Yahuah has already made a way for us to walk in this literal world, even though we've been born again as spiritual children. In our reality, we're still here until we fall asleep or Yahushua comes back. We're still here in these bodies of flesh, and we're battling against it every day. And Yahuah has already given us a way to be set apart in this fleshly, carbon-copied reality. And this is what he's telling us. So he who opposes the authority withstands the instruction of Yahuah. And those who rebel shall bring judgment on themselves. See that? So don't rebel. Don't be opposed to authorities within this little world. Subject yourself to them. And then you will be praised by them. And then you will be a fantastic, awesome representative of Yahuwah's kingdom. And that's why he wants you to be set apart in this fleshly world, in the literal world, and show the set apartness to the literal fleshly people living here in this reality, not in the spiritual realm, but in the fleshly realm, the carbon copied realm. You see it? So in both realms, whether it be the fleshly realm or the spiritual realm, or the carbon copy realm, or the spiritual realm, we need to be set apart in both worlds, both dimensions. And Yahuah has provided a way for us to be set apart in both dimensions. Are we all seeing that? I hope so. For those ruling are an object of fear, not to good works, but to evil behavior. Do you wish to be not afraid of the authority in this literal world? Do the good. Do the good. Be subjected to the law. And you shall have praise from it. See that? Praise from it. For it is a servant of Yahuah. It's a servant of Yahuah to you for good. But if you do evil, be afraid. For it does not bear the sword in vain. For it is a servant of Yahuah. It's a servant of Yahuah, man. See how he's providing set apartness for us in this carbon copied world? It's not an impossible task, folks. He's provided the way. A revenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. Not good. You have nothing to fear, if you're doing good. Because that sets you apart. Therefore, it is necessary to be subject, not only because of wrath, but also because of the conscience. For because of this, you also pay taxes, for they are servants of Yahuah, attending continually to these duties. Yahuah appointed them to these duties. And so we pay the taxes. Render therefore to all what is due to them. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Give to Yahuah what is Yahuah's. Render therefore to all what is due to them. Tax to whom tax is due. Toil to whom toll. Toll to whom toll is due. Fear to whom fear. Respect to whom respect. Owe no one anything except to love one another, for he who loves another has performed the Torah. So there you go. There's a huge guideline to be set apart in this literal world now, in your flesh. To owe nobody anything except to love one another, even your enemy, for he who loves another has performed the Torah, and, may I say, is Qodesh, is set apart to Yahuah. For this you shall not break wedlock, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, you shall not covet. And if there is any other command, is summed up in this word: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no evil to a neighbor. Therefore, love is completion of the Torah. So there you go. This is how we set ourselves apart in this fleshly world. These are the part of the 10 Dambarim, the 10 Commandments, if you will, and they're the horizontal commands, or some people say the last 6 or 5 commandments that teaches us how to love man, your fellow man, humans. And here, so now he's showing you how to be set apart in this literal world by obeying the 6 commandments. You love, you're loving the carbon copied people that are living, the unbelievers are living in this world, by not murdering them, by not stealing from them, by not breaking wedlock, by not bearing false witness of them, gossiping and talking about them, slandering them, things like that. Not coveting what they have, but setting your treasures up in the Shemaim. And if there's any other command summed up in this one word, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, which is the second greatest command of all. And therefore, love is completion of the Torah. So now you're in no violation. There's no law against love. Okay, there's no commandment against love. So love is the completion of the Torah. You have set yourself apart from this world as you're walking in the dust by loving your neighbor as yourself and completing the Torah of Yahuah. Wow. That should put chills up your spine to understand that. So the first 4 commandments are what they call the vertical commands, pointing up between man and Yahuah. He's above us. He's higher than us. And they teach us how to love him and be set apart in the spiritual realm. The last 6 are called the horizontal commands, shoulder to shoulder with humanity or mankind, teaching us how to love our neighbor and each other, and setting us apart from this literal, wicked, evil, walking in the dust, carbon copied world we're living in until we fall asleep or Yahusha comes back. Very powerful stuff here. If you can accept this, you can be set apart, even though you're still walking in this dust. You understand it? Love is what sets us apart here in the dust world, folks, among the dustmen and among the evil, fallen betrayers, the demons. betrayers of Yahuah. And do this, knowing the time that it is already the hour for us to wake up from sleep. For now our deliverance is nearer than we did believe. The night is far advanced. The day has come near. So let us put off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light, which is the Ruach HaKodesh. Hallelujah. Yahusha. Let us walk becomingly as in the day, not in wild parties and drunkenness, not in living together and indecencies, not in fighting and envy, but put on the Master Yahushua Mashiach and make no provision for the lust of the flesh. Wow. There you go. So you clothe yourself with Mashiach. That's the armor of light. All right. And you don't go out engaging in the works of the flesh. That's how you stay set apart here in the dust, people. So you don't go out to wild parties and get drunk, take drugs, get doped up. You don't go out chasing women or chasing men. You don't go living together and having orgies and going crazy with sexual immorality, indecencies. You don't get angry at people and hate people and gossip about people, cuss people out, fighting and punching them in the nose, envying them because they have a prettier wife than you do, or a nicer house than you do, or driving a newer car than you do. No, no, no. You don't do any of that. You set yourself apart. You put on Master Yahushua Mashiach and make no provision for the lust of the flesh. Let them have it. Just love them and be at peace with all men, and keep your peace and your joy, which are gifts from Yahuah, and hold on to those, and don't let anybody ever steal your joy from you, because it's an answered prayer. That's why you have peace and joy. Yahuah has answered your prayers. Don't give them away to anybody. Don't let anybody steal your gifts of peace and joy. If you do, become angry and hateful and depressed and unhappy, you've given your gifts back. You've thrown them down and trampled on them. And then you're not set apart, are you? No, you're not. You're part of this world. So stay set apart. Okay. All right, let's get back to what we're talking about. So we have to remember that everyone understands this set apartness. They can't see it, so they don't understand it, okay? Not everyone has a handle on this, all right? It's because it stems from a relationship with Yahuah, not a religion made up of Yahuah, which is a false religion and false information, just plain falsehood about Yahuah. Most of the time, they're not even talking the truth about Yahuah in them religions. This stems from having the understanding comes from having a relationship with Yahuah and a good, rounded knowledge of his words of truth. You must stay in the scriptures, folks. You have to read it daily, continuously if possible. You've got to dig deep into the scriptures. We are set apart for his purposes, not ours, for his. We've got to understand that. We have to act opposite of how the world acts. We're set apart for his purposes to perform the duties he has bestowed upon us as his children, as his servants, as his people, as his chosen priests and chosen kings, his treasured possession. We must act accordingly, folks. Netzarim, talking to you. So Yahuah has made us set apart for his special purposes. And sometimes those special purposes might not be evident to others in this fallen world. For instance, for an example, we can imagine that Esther may have experienced some type of criticism as she prepared to come before the Persian king. In the eyes of some of her fellow countrymen, she might have looked far from being set apart, since she consented to marrying an uncircumcised pagan king. Unthinkable for a nice, beautiful Yehudite woman. And yet, Yahuah placed her in this royal position in order to save the Hebrew people from destruction, total annihilation. And within those circumstances that Yahuah put her, she did her best to live up to that special purpose, even when her own people may have looked at her with great criticism and pointed and gossiped and talked about her as though she were a dog. So likewise, the Israelites who believe in Yahusha as the Mashiach over there right now in modern day Israel are certainly not considered to be set apart by their Orthodox Jewish brethren, the big brothers, but rather they look at them as traitors to the Jewish people and to their Alahim. So ultimately, even though we are commanded to avoid the appearance of evil, what's important is not how people see us, but how Yahuah sees us. We are each individuals, and Yahuah treats us as such. So let us allow Yahuah to make us set apart before his eyes, not before the eyes of others, but before his eyes. Yahuah knows. Yahuah knows. But that doesn't mean we get to go do our own thing and define ourselves and define for ourselves what set apart looks like. Okay. We must learn what Yahuah considers to be set apart. And then we must sanctify ourselves according to Yahuah's set apartness, not our own definition of it. And the only way you're going to do that is by spending a lot of time in scriptures. So the question remains, how can we be set apart when we are walking in the dust of this fallen world? In our reality, we're still in the flesh. So the key or the answer or the key to this question is found in Deuteronomy 28:9. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28:9. See it for yourself. It's not good enough for me just to tell you what it is. You need to see it for yourself. So turn to Deuteronomy 28:9, and it says, Yahuah does establish you as a set-apart people to himself, as he has sworn to you, if you guard the commands of Yahuah, your Alahim, and walk in his ways. And all peoples of the earth shall see that the name of Yahuah is called upon you, and they shall be afraid of you. And Yahuah shall make you to have plenty of what is good, in the fruit of your body, in the fruit of your livestock, and in the fruit of your ground, in the land of which Yahuah swore to your fathers to give you. So there you go. The key to this question, how can we be set apart in this fallen world, walking in this dust, is you shall walk in the ways of Yahuah. You shall walk in the way of Yahuah. That's how. The answer's in Deuteronomy 28:9. So the key to this question is in those words right there, Deuteronomy 28:9. And you shall walk in his way, in the ways of Yahuah El Shaddai. Not in your ways, but in his ways. We are, in other words, folks, we are to imitate or emulate the actions and character of our Alahim, of Yahuah El Shaddai. Just as he is merciful and compassionate, we are to be merciful and compassionate. Just as he is patient with us, we are to be patient with others. Just as he is kind to us, we are to be kind to others. Just as he is forgiving to us, we are to forgive others. Just as he releases us from debts, we are to release others and not hold grudges. Just as he blesses us, we are to bless others. Just as he loves us, we are to love others. Just as Yahuah is, so are we to be people. This is what sets us apart. We are to be, our actions and our character must mimic and shadow Yahuah, your Alahim. Yahusha emphasized this. Yahusha emphasized these guiding principles in his own life as a great example to us. And Yahuchanan 5:19, Yahusha said, verily, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. Let's look at it. Go to John 5:19. See it yourself. John 5:19 says, therefore Yahuah responded and said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, the Son is able to do none at all by himself, but only that which he sees the Father doing. because whatever he does, the Son also likewise does. So you see there, Yahushua himself was emulating the actions and the character of Yahuah perfectly and precisely and accurately. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself does. And greater works than these he is going to show him, in order that you marvel. For as the Father raises the dead and makes alive, even so the Son makes alive whom he wishes. So there you go. Yahusha did what Yahuah did. His actions and character was precisely of his father Yahuah. Why? Because he was Yahuah. So he didn't have a different personality or actions or character that belonged to him alone. He possessed the same actions and character of Yahuah because he was Yahuah, robed in flesh. Therefore, with that example, then we have to do the same. Okay, we have to imitate or emulate the actions and character of Yahuah so that we can be set apart in this fallen world as we walk in this dust. We remain walking in this dust, don't we? Yeah, in our reality, we do. In the spiritual realm, we do not. We walk in the Ruach and truth. But in this literal world, I'm still in this fleshly body because I can pinch it and it hurts. So we need to be set apart in both worlds, both dimensions. Yahushua absolutely emphasized this guiding principle in his own life, folks. John 5:19 proves that. So naturally then, Yahushua is giving us instructions here to imitate the Father or Yahuah. Look in Matthew 5:48. Matthew 5:48 says, therefore be perfect as your Father in the Shamayim is perfect. So we have to imitate Yahuwah's perfection, man. A lot of people stumble at this and say, oh, it's impossible to be perfect. We can't be perfect. There must be some kind of mixed up misunderstanding in translation. Somebody made a mistake. Ain't no way that we can be perfect. But again, Yahuah is not going to give us a command that we cannot obey. Therefore, be perfect as your Father in the Shamayim is perfect. So in this fallen world that we're in, the original Hebrew word in the Tanakh that is often translated perfect is tamim, which means complete, sound, blameless, or with integrity. Some of you may say, well, what's integrity? Well, integrity is when we do what is right or what is righteous, even though no one is watching. That's integrity. Psalms 101, verse 2 says, I act wisely in a perfect way. When do you come to me? I walk in the midst of my house with a perfect heart. That was the psalmist Dawood, King David, that wrote that. I will be careful to lead a blameless life. When will you come to me? I will conduct the affairs of my house with a blameless heart. So in the Hebrew, therefore, we see the true meaning of the word tamim, or perfect. It is not an unattainable perfection, folks, but a character that reflects the character of Yahuah Shaddai. And we must imitate it. We have to be set apart. A blameless life and a blameless heart refers to purity. Pure heart is what Yahuah searches for. While Yahuah does not expect us to be perfect as humans define it, to get everything right the first time and every time, not making any mistakes, he does want us to walk in his way, along paths of purity and set apartness with a pure heart. It is attainable, folks. Understand what you're reading. The Torah reveals that such perfection and purity naturally embrace integrity and rejects deceptiveness. Lying, cheating, stealing, backstabbing, betraying, deceptiveness. Leviticus 19:11 says, well, let's go to it. I want you to see it yourself. Tonight's study is all about you seeing for yourself what's written in the word of truth. Go to Leviticus 19:11. Do not steal. Do not lie. Do not deceive one another. And do not swear falsely by my name, and so profane the name of your Alahim. I am Yahuah. There you go. Amazing, isn't it? Deceptiveness, stealing, lying, deceiving one another, swearing falsely on his name. If you do, you profane the name of your Alahim. Back to Psalms 101. Verses 6 and 7 says, my eyes are on the trustworthy of the land to dwell with me. He who walks in a perfect way, he serves me. He who practices deceit does not dwell in my house. He who speaks lies does not stand in my presence. Hallelujah, 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 El Shaddai. Do you understand what you're reading, folks? The purity, the perfection, embraces integrity and rejects the deceptiveness. And it makes you perfect before Yahuah with a pure heart. And this, folks, also, of course, will include the set apartness and the integrity in commerce, in your business dealings with others. The people of Yahuah are not to follow the immoral or unjust codes of those who do not know Yahuah, but rather to deal honestly in all business affairs, whether you be the seller or the buyer. If you are the seller, you do not cheat with length, weight, or quantity, or even quality. And if you're the buyer, if you receive change that's too much, then you don't put it in your pocket. You give it back to the seller and say, "Here, you gave me changed me. You gave me one more dollar back than I was supposed to get." We must maintain our set apartness and our integrity, even in our business practices and affairs, folks. Back to Leviticus 19. Leviticus 19, 35 and 36 says, Do no unrighteousness in right ruling, in measurement of length, in weight, or in measuring liquids. Have right scales, right weights, a right ephah, and a right hin. I am Yahuah your Alahim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, and you shall guard all my laws and all my right rulings and do them. I am Yahuah. So there you go. Those of us who profess to follow Yahusha HaMashiach, and I'm talking to you, Nazarene, should be especially careful not to deal deceitfully with others. Deceitful dealing is damaging not only to our personal reputation as Yahuwah's people, but also Yahuwah's reputation, since believers, the Nazarene, represent him. Did you know that, Nazarene? You are representing Yahuah. You must be perfect like Yahuah. You must have integrity like Yahuah. You are representing Yahuah. You better mimic him. You better represent him right. Deceitful behavior is the opposite of set apartness. Understand that. Deceitful behavior is the opposite of set apartness. Most of the world, most of the people in this fallen world have come to expect that Yahuwah's people, that believers, or in their terms, religiously observant people, should and do hold themselves to a higher standard of morality and integrity than the secular people do, who do not follow Yahuwah's laws as a guide, or nor do they believe in Yahuwah. But they expect for us to hold that higher standard of morality and integrity. But sometimes, unfortunately, sadly, this is not always the case. Too often it turns out that there are many con artists, many spies among us pretending to be Nazarene in order to gain someone's trust, in order to fulfill some wicked agenda of theirs. As an example, We could say that there was a Nazarene that purchased a secondhand car, we'll just say, without knowing much about the process. We'll just say it was a single mom who purchased a vehicle, and she unwisely trusted the man that was selling the car, simply because he wore a collar as a priest, or looked like a preacher. Or maybe she trusted the man because he wore zits on his clothing. In other words, the man selling the car identified himself as some type of religious observant person. And perhaps the man's wife even wore a head covering or a cross around her neck, indicating that she was an Alahim fearing person. And so the woman buys the car and trusting them from how they look, from looks. And then the car turns out to be a total lemon. And then the first month, the car breaks down. The engine blows up. She doesn't have the money to pay for it, make the repairs. So there the car lays in her driveway dead. And despite all attempts to contact the man that she thought was a believer and his wife with the cross around her neck, they could not be found. Matter of fact, they even changed the number of their cell phone. And the old phone was disconnected. So this man had dealt deceivingly with this poor woman who was a single mother and had spent all her savings that she had on this car and trusted in him because she thought that he knew Yahuah. Back to Leviticus 19:13. So Leviticus 19 again, back to 19:13. It says, "Do not oppress your neighbor or rob him. The wages of him who is hired not to remain with you all night until morning." There you go. So basically, do not defraud or rob your neighbor. If you do, you're not set apart. You're part of this world. You are part of the world. So remember, folks, especially you Nazarene, you're representing Yahuah. So act accordingly. Matter of fact, we can go as far as saying set apartness is love in action. Let me repeat that. Set apartness is love in action. So other actions that are keeping with set apartness are keeping the Shabbat, referencing Yahuah, his sanctuary, showing respect for the elderly, standing up for the gray-headed, honoring your parents, providing for the poor, and not showing favoritism to the rich. This is love in action. This is set apartness. Set apartness forbids sexual immorality, injustice, and participation in any kind of sorcery, enchanting with drugs, divination, magic, spells, witchcraft. Although interest in the occult is on the rise in these end times, Scripture highly forbids it. Back to Leviticus 19:26 says, do not eat meat with the blood. Do not practice divination or magic. Do not round the corner of your head, nor destroy the corner of your beard. And do not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead or put tattoo marks on you. I am Yahuah. Do not profane your daughter by making her a whore, so that the land does not whore and the land becomes filled with wickedness. Guard my Shabbats and reference my set apart place. I am Yahuah. Do not turn to mediums and do not seek after spiritists to be defiled by them. I am Yahuah your Alahim. Rise up before the gray-headed, and you shall favor the face of an old man, and shall fear your Alahim. I am Yahuah. But set apartness is not limited to actions, folks. It also concerns your attitude. Set apartness condemns hatred, anger, bearing grudges, and taking revenge. Leviticus 19:17 and 18 says, do not hate your brother in your heart. Reprove your neighbor for certain, and bear no sin because of him. Do not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the children of your people, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahuah. Of course, that last verse there perhaps is one of the most well-known in the entire Tanakh. Love your neighbor as yourself. It is a set-apart command. Yahusha quoted that same verse when he was questioned as to which commands were the most important in the entire Torah. In Mark 12:30 and 31, he answered, love Yahuah your Alahim with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Look at it yourself. Go to Mark 12. He reiterated it. He quoted the Torah when asked that question. Look at Mark 12:18 through 34. And the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him, and they asked him, saying, Teacher, Moshe wrote to us that if a brother of anyone dies and leaves his asha behind and leaves no children, his brother should take his asha and raise up offspring for his brother. There were 7 brothers, and the first took an asha and died, leaving no offspring, and the second took her, and he died, leaving behind no offspring, and the third likewise, and the 7 left no offspring. Last of all, the asha died too. In the resurrection then, when they rise, whose asha shall she be? For 7 had her as an asha. And Yahusha answering said to them, Is this not why you go astray? Because you do not know the writings nor the power of Alahim. For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as messengers in the Shemayim. And concerning the dead that they rise, have you not read in the book of Moses at the bush how Alahim spoke to him, saying, I am the Alahim of Abraham, and the Alahim of Yitzchak, and the Alahim of Jacob? He is not the Alahim of the dead, but Alahim of the living. You then go greatly astray. And one of the scribes coming near, hearing them reasoning together, knowing that he had answered them well, asked him, which is the foremost command of all? And Yahusha answered him, the first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuah our Alahim. Yahuah is one. And you shall love Yahuah your Alahim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your mind and with all your strength. This is the foremost command. And the second, like it, is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other command greater than these. And the scribe said to him, Well said, teacher, you have spoken the truth. For there is one Alahim, and there is no other besides him. And to love him with all your heart and with all the understanding and with all the being and with all the strength, and to love one's neighbor as oneself is more than all the burnt offerings and offerings. And when Yahusha saw that he answered wisely, he said to him, You are not far from the reign of Yahuah. And after that, no one was bold enough to question him. Hallelujah, man. Hallelujah. Amos, the prophet, gives a scathing warning to the people of Israel of the impending divine judgments due to their immortality and their deceptive business practices. So in Amos 9:8, it says, Behold, the eyes of Yahuah, your Alahim, are on this sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from the face of the earth. So here we find out in Amos that Israel transgressed by mistreating the poor, imposing unjust taxes, taking bribes from people, and doing performing evil business practices. Yeah, and yet Yahuah showed mercy and promised in Amos 9:8, I will not totally destroy the house of Jacob. You also promised to one day restore the fallen tabernacle of David in Amos 9:11 and 12. In that day, I will restore David's falling shelter. I will repair its broken walls and restore its ruins. And I will rebuild it as it used to be, so that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the nations that bear my name. So don't forget, set apartness also includes honest business practices. So have the most highest integrity when you perform your commerce, whether you be the seller or the buyer. Remain set apart to Yahuah. So the secret of set apartness. The secret of set apartness is vital for his people to understand. The people of Israel suffered a terrible punishment due to their sin. Still, Yahuah promised to bring them back to inhabit the rebuilt cities. In Amos 9:14 and 15, he says, I will bring my people Israel back from exile. They will rebuild ruined cities and live in them. They will plant vineyards and drink their wine. They will make gardens and eat their fruits. I will plant Israel in their own land, never again to be uprooted from the land I have given them. It's just possible that this amazing prophecy has come true in this generation. And what's going on over there right now may be proof of that. Despite their tendency to stray from the path of set apartness, there is still hope for us all in Yahuah. For his mercies are everlasting. His kindness is everlasting. That is why we are not consumed already, because of his mercies and his kindness that are everlasting. So as Netzarim, as the branches of the vine, as the followers of Yahushua HaMashiach, we are to make every effort to live our lives with integrity, operating in justice, mercy, compassion, and love, and truth. And the set apartness that is defined in the Torah, so that we bring esteem to the name of Yahuah. Hebrews 12:14 says, let's go there. Hebrews 12:14 says, pursue peace with all, and pursue set apartness, without which no one shall see the Master. Are you hearing that? This is obviously a crucial statement, a crucial issue. Set apartness is a crucial issue. It's actually a salvational issue. Since the book of Hebrews here in chapter 12, verse 14, is reminding us to make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be set apart. Without set apartness, no one will see the Master. Okay, now that should have knocked you off your chair. Hear and obey. So what's the secret to set apartness then? What is the secret to set apartness then? Is that when we draw close to Yahuah, as we pursue an intimate relationship with him, we will discover his set apartness. And only then can we live out our set apart identity and purpose as the sons and daughters of the Almighty, Yahuah Al Shaddai. Go to 2 Corinthians 6. 2 Corinthians 6, 14 through 18. It says, Do not become unevenly yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership have righteousness and lawlessness? And what fellowship has light with darkness? And what agreement has Mashiach with Belial, wickedness? Or what part does a believer have with an unbeliever? And what union has the Mishkan of Yahuah with idols? For you are a Mishkan of the living Yahuah. As Yahuah has said, I shall dwell in them and walk among them, and I shall be their Alahim, and they shall be my people. Therefore, come out from among them and be set apart, says Yahuah, and do not touch what is unclean, and I shall receive you. And I shall be a father to you, and you shall be sons and daughters to me, says Yahuah al Shaddai. So there you go. The secret to set apartness is drawing close to Yahuah and pursuing an intimate relationship with him. And then, and only then, will we discover his set apartness. The secret is in Hosea 6. The secret to set apartness is found in Hosea 6:3. Go to Hosea 6:3. Hosea 6:3 says, so let us know and let us pursue to know Yahuah. His going forth is as certain as the morning, and he comes to us like the rain, like the latter rain, watering the arets. So there's the secret. So let us know means draw close to him. Draw close to Yahuah. Let us know. Draw close to him. And let us pursue to know Yahuah. Pursue an intimate relationship with him. Pursue an intimate relationship with him. So draw close to him and pursue an intimate relationship with him. And we will discover his set apartness, which we can imitate and emulate, and we can walk in his character here in the dust and be set apart to him in this carbon-copied world. Okay? So there we go. There is a lot more in Scripture concerning this set apart command. And like I said, not only in the spiritual dimension, but in this carbon copy dimension as well. And we have to be set apart in both dimensions. We have to be. And so let's go ahead and we'll look through Scripture a little bit at this point and confirming a lot of this stuff we just talked about. Let's go to Leviticus 19 and read it. I hope that everybody now at least can understand what set apartness is and what we're trying, what we're attempting to do when we're to be following the set apart command. And basically, I guess maybe the easiest way to understand it would just be to say, be in opposition to the world. Just be in total opposition. When they're angry, you have joy. When they want to fight, you have peace. When they steal, you give back. Be in opposition to them. When they hate you, you love them. They punch you in the nose, you hug them. Be in opposition, and you'll be set apart from this dust world, this carbon-copied reality here. So let's look at Leviticus 19, if you will. And Yahuah spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to all the congregation of the children of Yisrael, and say to them, Be set apart, for I, Yahuah, your Alahim, am set apart. Each one of you should fear his mother and his father, and guard my Shabbats. I am Yahuah, your Alahim. Do not turn to idols, and do not make for yourselves molded mighty ones. I am Yahuah, your Alahim. And when you bring a peace offering to Yahuah, bring it in for your acceptance. It is eaten the same yom you slaughter it, and on the next yom. And that which is left on the third yom is burned with fire. So if it is eaten at all on the third yom, it is an abomination. It is not accepted. And he who eats it bears his crookedness, because he has profaned the set-apart offering of Yahuah. And that being shall be cut off from his people. And when you reap the harvest of your land, do not completely reap the corners of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. And do not glean your vineyard or gather every grape of your vineyard. Leave them for the poor and the stranger. I am Yahuah, your Alahim. Do not steal. Do not lie. Do not deceive one another. And do not swear falsely by my name, and so profane the name of your Alahim. I am Yahuah. Do not oppress your neighbor or rob him. The wages of him who is hired is not to remain with you all night until morning. Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind, but fear your Alahim. I am Yahuah. Do not do no unrighteousness in right ruling. Do not be partial to the poor or favor the face of the great, but rightly rule your neighbor in righteousness. In case you're missing the point here, these are all the things that make you set apart in this dust world while you walk in the dust. In case you're missing the point here. Do not go slandering among your people. Do not stand against the blood of your neighbor. I am Yahuah. Do not hate your brother in your heart. Reprove your neighbor for certain, and bear no sin because of him. Do not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the children of your people. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahuah. Guard my laws. Do not let your livestock mate with another kind. Do not sow your field with mixed seed, and do not put a garment woven of two sorts of thread upon you. And when a man has intercourse with an Asha, who is a female servant, engaged to a man, and who has not at all been ransomed nor redeemed, there should be an inquiry. But they are not put to death because she was not free. And he shall bring his guilt offering to Yahuah, to the door of the tent of the meeting, a ram as a guilt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for him with the ram of the guilt offering before Yahuah for his sin which he has done. And the sin which he has done and the sin which he has sinned shall be forgiven him. And when you come into the land and have planted all kinds of trees for food, then you shall reckon their fruit as uncircumcised. For 3 years it is as uncircumcised to you, it is not eaten. And in the 4th year all its fruit is set apart. Praises to Yahuah. And in the 5th year you eat its fruit, so that it increases its yield to you. I am Yahuah, your Alahim. Do not mix meat with the blood. Do not practice divination or magic. That includes astrology, folks, and horoscopes. So if you get on the internet and read your horoscope every day, you need to stop doing that, because that is stopping you from being set apart. All these things we must do to be set apart in this literal carbon copied world. Understand that, hear and obey. Do not round the corners of your head, nor destroy the corner of your beard. That means grow a full beard. You're not allowed to have just a mustache or a goatee and long sideburns. You got to have a full beard, whether it be short or long. It doesn't really matter as long as it's full. And do not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead. Don't cut yourself or put tattoo marks on you. I am Yahuah. Stop getting tattoos. If you're a tattoo nut, you need to stop. That's what you can't put tattoos. You have to remain set apart. Do not profane your daughter by making her a whore, so that the land does not whore and the land becomes filled with wickedness. Guard my Shabbats, it's plural, and reference my set apart place, Jerusalem, Temple Mount area. I am Yahuah. Do not turn to mediums and do not seek after spiritists to be defiled by them. So don't be going to these people that read your palm readers, looking crystal balls, try to fortune tellers, people that want to hold seances, use Ouija boards, do seances, try to talk to the dead. Can't do any of that. If you do, then you're violating the set apart command. I am Yahuah, your Alahim. Rise up before the gray-headed. That means respect your elders. And you shall favor the face of an old man, and shall fear your Alahim. I am Yahuah. And when a stranger sojourns with you in your land, do not oppress him. Let the stranger who dwells among you be to you as the native among you. And you shall love him as yourself, for you are strangers in the land of Mitzrayim. I am Yahuah, your Alahim. Do no unrighteousness and right ruling in measurement of length and weight, or in measuring liquids. Have right scales, right weights, a right afah, and a right hin. I am Yahuah, your Alahim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, and you shall guard all my laws and all my right rulings and do them. I am Yahuah. So there you go. And you can go ahead and keep reading if you want. And it gives you even more details about how to stay set apart in this fallen world while you're walking in the dust. Okay? Look at Deuteronomy 28:9. Yahuah does establish you as a set apart people to himself, as he has sworn to you, if you guard the commands of Yahuah your Alahim and walk in his way. And all peoples of the Eret shall see that the name of Yahuah is called upon you, and they shall be afraid of you. So you see, you're going to represent Yahuah. So you have to act like Yahuah. You have to do what is set apart, which we just read, and there is more. Okay, and then you represent Yahuah. People see that, and they fear you because they fear Yahuah. Even if they don't believe, they got fear because deep down inside, they do know that Yahuah is real. They really do. Everybody really does. There's no atheist on the deathbed. Everybody knows he's real. They're just in denial, and they hate him, and they're denying him. But on the deathbed, they know he's real. And Yahuah shall make you to have plenty of what is good. What is good. Okay? Now, what is bad, but what is good? So you'll be surrounded by good things, and people will see that you belong to Yahuah because you're representing Yahuah, and they can see that. So you'll have what is good. Now, what is bad, you're not going to be selling drugs and drinking alcohol and getting drunk and breaking out your windows and beating up your wife and kicking your car door and putting dents in it and carrying on, kicking your dog or whatever. Being mean to your neighbor, wanting to fight with your neighbor because you're drunk and disorderly. That's kind of stuff. That's bad stuff. Okay, so you're going to have plenty of what is good, which represents Yahuah and shines Yahuah's light into the world so you can represent him in light, not in darkness. In the fruit of your body is your children. He's going to procreate you. He's going to multiply you, give you children, give you offspring, give you fruit. Children are fruit in Hebrew. In the fruit of your livestock, he's going to increase your herd. He's going to multiply your herd and your livestock so that your wealth increases. And the fruit of your livestock is the children, is their offspring. It's going to increase. He's going to increase you. He's going to increase your livestock. And in the fruit of your ground, that means when you plant your fields, you're going to get a large harvest. Okay, so your fruit of the ground is the harvest, whether it be fruit on trees, grapes on vineyards, wheat, barley, whatever it is. Okay, he's going to bring it into fruition and bless you. In the land of which Yahuah swore to your fathers to give you. All right. So he promises increase. All you have to do is be set apart. And he promises increase, fruit, multiplication, good things, to be surrounded in good things, not bad things. Look at Ezekiel 20. And it came to be in the 7th year, in the 5th month, on the 10th of the month, that certain of the elders of Israel came to inquire of Yahuah and sat before me. And the word of Yahuah came to me, saying, Son of man, speak to the elders of Israel and say to them, Thus said the Master Yahuah, Have you come to inquire of me? As I live, I am not being inquired of by you, declares the Master Yahuah. Judge them, Son of man, judge them. Make known to them the abominations of their fathers. And you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Yahuah, On the yom when I chose Israel and lifted my hand in an oath to the seed of the house of Jacob, and made myself known to them in the land of Mitzrayim, I lifted my hand in an oath to them, saying, I am Yahuah your Alahim. On that yom I lifted my hand in an oath to them, to bring them out of the land of Mitzrayim into the land that I had searched out for them, flowing with milk and honey, the splendor of all the lands. And I said to them, Each one of you throw away the abominations which are before your eyes, and do not defile yourselves with the idols of Mitzrayim. I am Yahuah your Alahim. But they rebelled against me and would not obey me. All of them did not throw away the abominations which were before their eyes, nor did they forsake the idols of Mitzrayim. So I resolved to pour out my wrath on them to complete my displeasures against them in the midst of the land of Mitzrayim. But I acted for my name's sake, that it should not be profaned before the eyes of the nations among whom they were, before whose eyes I had made myself known to them, to bring them out of the land of Mitzrayim. So I took them out of the land of Mitzrayim, and I brought them into the wilderness. And I gave them my laws and showed them my right rulings, in order for them to be set apart. Which if a man does, he shall live by them. And I also gave them my Shabbats to be a sign between them and me, to know that I am Yahuah who sets them apart. See that? Okay, so notice this is plural Shabbats. So that would include the weekly Shabbat, the 7 appointed times, and some of them are Shabbats as well. Okay, and but the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness. They did not walk in my laws, and they rejected my right rulings, which if a man does, he shall live by them. And they greatly profaned my Shabbats. Then I said I would pour out my wrath on them in the wilderness to consume them. But I acted for my name's sake, not to profane it before the nations, before whose eyes I had brought them out. And I myself also lifted my hand in an oath to them in the wilderness, not to bring them out into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, the splendor of all lands, because they rejected my right ruling and did not walk in my laws, and they profaned my Shabbats. For their heart went after their idols. And my eye pardoned them from their destruction, and I did not make an end of them in the wilderness. I said to their children in the wilderness, do not walk in the laws of your fathers, nor observe their rulings, nor defile yourselves with their idols. I am Yahuah your Alahim. Walk in my laws and guard my right rulings and do them, and set apart my Shabbats, and they shall be a sign between me and you, to know that I am Yahuah your Alahim. But the children rebelled against me. They did not walk in my laws and my right rulings. They did not guard to do them, which if a man does, he shall live by them. They profaned my Shabbats. So I resolved to pour out my wrath on them to complete my displeasure against them in the wilderness. But I held back my hand and acted for my name's sake, not to profane it before the eyes of the nations, before whose eyes I had brought them out. Also, I myself lifted my hand in an oath to those in the wilderness, to scatter them among the nations and disperse them throughout the lands, because they had not done my right rulings, and they rejected my laws, and they profaned my Shabbats, and their eyes were on their fathers' idols. So they didn't follow, they didn't obey his set apart command. To be set apart, they continued to do what everybody else on the earth was doing, what all the other people were doing. They continued to do what the other people were doing. They were supposed to do the opposite. Be set apart, be different. And I also gave them up to laws that were not good, and right ruling by which they would not live. And I defiled them by their own gifts, as they passed all their firstborn through the fire, so that I might stun them, so that they know that I am Yahuah. Therefore, son of man, speak to the house of Israel, and you shall say to them, thus said the Master Yahuah, in this your fathers have further reviled me, by committing trespass against me. When I brought them into the land for which I had lifted my hand in an oath to give them, and they saw all the high hills and all the thick trees, they offered their slaughterings there and provoked me in their offerings there. And they sent up their sweet fragrance there and poured out their drink offerings there. And I said to them, what is this high place to which you go? So its name is called Bamoth to this Yom. Therefore, say to the house of Israel, thus said the Master Yahuah, are you defiling yourselves in the way of your fathers? And do you whore after their abominations? For when you lift up your gifts and make your sons pass through the fire, you defile yourselves with all your idols, even to this Yom. And shall I be inquired of by you, O house of Israel? As I live, declares the Master Yahuah, I am not being inquired of by you. And what comes up in your ruach shall never be when you say, let us be like the nations, like the tribes in other lands, serving wood and stone. As I live, declares the Master Yahuah, do not I, with a mighty hand, with an outstretched arm, and with wrath poured out, reign over you? See that? They wanted to be like everybody else, but they weren't allowed to be. They were given the set apart command to be different than them, to be opposite of them, to be set apart to Yahuah, and be different. But they wanted to go after, act like the other tribes in all the lands and like the other nations. They wanted to act like other men rather than obey Yahuah's set apart commands. This is bad. You cannot be set apart in this literal, fleshly, carbon copied world and act like everybody else in this world. You can't do it. You got to be act in opposition. I shall bring you out of the peoples and gather you out of the lands where you are scattered, with a mighty hand and with an outstretched arm, with wrath poured out. And I shall bring you into the wilderness of the peoples, and shall enter into judgment with you face to face there. As I entered into judgment with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Mitzrayim, so I shall enter into judgment with you, declares the Master Yahuah. And I shall make you pass under the rod, and shall bring you into the bond of the covenant, and purge the rebels from among you, and those who transgress against me. From the land where they sojourned I bring them out, but they shall not come into the land of Israel. And you shall know that I am Yahuah. As for you, O house of Israel, thus said the Master Yahuah, go serve each of you his idols, and afterwards, if you are not listening to me, but do not profane my set-apart name any more with your gifts and your idols, for on my set-apart mountain, on the mountain height of Israel, declares the Master Yahuah, there all the house of Israel, all of them in the land shall serve me. There I shall accept them, and there I shall require your offerings and the first fruits of your offerings, together with all your set-apart gifts. As a sweet fragrance I shall accept you when I bring you out from the peoples. And I shall gather you out of the lands where you have been scattered, and I shall be set apart in you before the nations. And you shall know that I am Yahuah when I bring you into the land of Israel, to the land of which I lifted my hand in an oath to give to your fathers. And there you shall remember your ways and all your deeds with which you were defiled. And you shall loathe yourselves in your own sight because of all the evils that you did. And you shall know that I am Yahuah when I have dealt with you for my name's sake, not according to your evil ways, nor according to your corrupt deeds, O house of Israel, declares the Master Yahuah. And the word of Yahuah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face toward the south, and drop word against the south, and prophesy against the forest land, the south. And you shall say to the forest of the south, hear the words of Yahuah. Thus said the Master Yahuah, see, I am kindling a fire in you, and it shall devour every green tree and every dry tree in you. The blazing flame is not quenched, and it shall burn all faces from the south to the north, and all flesh shall see that I am Yahuah, that I, Yahuah, have kindled it. It is not quenched. And I said, oh, Master Yahuah, they are saying of me, is he not speaking parables? They're not getting it. They're not getting what's going on here. They weren't set apart. They would not maintain their set apart command. They wanted to be like the other nations and the other tribes, and so they disobeyed Yahuah and did not remain set apart to Yahuah and be set apart as he's set apart. So he's set apart from people, from the world and from the people in this world. He doesn't act like people. He's set apart. And we must be too. Look at Hosea 6:3. Three through 11. So let us know, let us pursue to know Yahuah. That's the secret of set apartness. To draw close to Yahuah and pursue an intimate relationship with Yahuah, and you will find his set apartness. And you can imitate it. His going forth is certain as the morning, and he comes to us like the rain, like the latter rain, washing the arets. Ephraim, what would I do with you? Yehudah, what would I do with you? For your trustworthiness is like a morning cloud, and like the early dew, it goes away. Therefore I have hewn them by the prophets. I have slain them by the words of my mouth, and my right rulings break forth as the light. For I delight in kindness and not slaughtering, and in the knowledge of Alahim more than burnt offerings. But like Adam, they transgressed the covenant. They acted treacherously against me. That verse 7 right there is proof that Adam knew the 10 Debarim, folks. He had knowledge of the 10 Debarim. And like Adam, they transgressed the covenant. See that? Gilead is a city of workers of wickedness, tracked up with blood. And his bands of robbers lie in wait for a man. So the company of priests murder on the way to Shechem. For they have done wickedness. I have seen a horrible matter in the house of Israel. The whoring of Ephraim is there. Yisrael is defiled. Also a harvest is appointed for you, O Yehudah, when I turn back the captivity of my people. Wow, unbelievable. The compassion, Yahuwah's compassion is everlasting. His mercy is everlasting. His kindness is everlasting. Amos 8, 11 and 12. See, Yamam are coming, declares the Master Yahuwah, that I shall send a famine in the land. Not a famine for bread, nor a thirst for water, but for hearing the words of Yahuwah. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from north to east. They shall diligently search, seeking the word of Yahuwah, but they shall not find it. Wow. In that yam, the pretty maidens and strong men shall faint from thirst. Those swearing by the guilt of Shamarion, who say, as your mighty one lives, Dan, and as the way of Bathsheba lives, and they shall fall and never rise again. Oh, there's going to be a famine in the land. They're going to collect all the scriptures and burn them, get rid of them, abolish them, and try to get rid of Yahuwah's people and all the scriptures. And you're not going to be able to find scripture when you want it. You're going to be a thirst in the land for that. The type or the shadow, the foreshadow of that is in Genesis 41. You look over Genesis 41, 50 through 57, it says, and to Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of scarcity of food came, whose Aseneth, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore to him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. For Alahim has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second he called Ephraim. For Alahim has caused me to bear fruit in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenty which were in the land of Mitzrayim came to an end. And the 7 years of scarcity of food began to come, as Joseph had said. And the scarcity of food was in all lands. But in the land of Mitzrayim there was bread. And when all the land of Mitzrayim hungered and the people cried to Pharaoh for bread, Pharaoh said to all the Mitzrites, go to Joseph, do whatever he says to you. And the scarcity of food was over all the face of the Eretz. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Mitzrites. And the scarcity of food was severe in the land of Mitzrayim. And all the Eretz came to Joseph in Mitzrayim to buy grain, because the scarcity of food was severe in all the Eretz. So there you go. We're going to see a scarcity of food, but it's not going to be grain this time. It's going to be the manna from heaven. seeking the word of Yahuah, but they shall not find it. So we can expect that coming up here in the end of the latter days. There will be an attack on Yahuwah's people. They will collect all the scriptures they can find, probably burn them. And the only way the people are going to be able to hear the word is from the memory of the Nazarene. They'll seek out the Nazarene to learn about Yahuah. Look at Amos 9:14 and 15 very closely. Those swearing by the guild of Shamuran, who say, as your mighty one lives, Dan, and as the way of Beersheba lives, and they shall fall and never rise again. See that? So prophetic reasoning there. Okay, go to Psalms 101. Psalms 101 says, I sing of kindness and right ruling to you, O Yahuah. I sing praises. I act wisely in a perfect way. When do you come to me? I walk in the midst of my house with a perfect heart. I set no matter of Belial before my eyes, which is wickedness. I hate the work of those who fall away. It does not cleave to me. Fall away meaning they stop being set apart. They start acting like everybody else. It does not cleave to me. A perverse heart turns away from me. I do not know evil. Him who secretly slanders his neighbor, I cut off. I do not tolerate one who has a haughty look and a proud heart. My eyes are on the trustworthy of the land to dwell with me. He who walks in a perfect way, he serves me. He who practices deceit does not dwell in my house. He who speaks lies does not stand in my presence. Each morning I uproot all the wrong of the land to cut off all the workers of malice from the city of Yahuah. Be set apart, folks. Be set apart. All right. Look at 2 Corinthians 6:14. To not become unevenly yoked with unbelievers, for what partnership have righteousness and lawlessness, and what fellowship has light with darkness? So it's showing the opposition. So if you're set apart to Yahuah, you're light. You're not darkness. Darkness is of the world. You see that? So this is all showing you the opposition and how to choose the set apart way of Yahuah. And what agreement has Mashiach with wickedness? So you have Mashiach and you have the anti-Mashiach. Or what part does a believer have with an unbeliever? So you have a believer and you have an unbeliever. Of course, the believer's and set apart from the unbeliever. And what union has the temple of Yahuah with idols? You have the pagan temples worshiping idols, and then you have the sanctuary, the set apart place, worshiping Yahuah. As Yahuah has said, I shall dwell in them and walk among them, and I shall be their Alahim, and they shall be my people, if you're set apart to him. Therefore come out from among them and be set apart, says Yahuah, and do not touch what is unclean, and I shall receive you, clean and unclean. Set apart, you're clean. If you're not set apart, you're unclean. See, it's an opposition. About the easiest way to understand it. And I shall be a father to you, and you shall be sons and daughters to me, says Yahuah Al Shaddai, if you set yourself apart. All right. I'm going to wrap this up with Hebrews 12. Let's look at Hebrews 12. We too, then, having so great a cloud of witness all around us, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race before us. Look into the princely leader and perfecter of our belief, Yahushua, who, for the joy set before him, endured the stake, having despised the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of Yahuah. For consider him who endured such opposition from sinners against himself. See that? Opposition. Opposition from sinners against himself, lest you become weary and faint in your lives. You have not yet resisted to blood, striving against sin. And you have forgotten the appeal which speaks to you as to sons. My son, do not despise the discipline of Yahuah, nor faint when you are reproved by him. For whom Yahuah loves, he disciplines, and flogs every son whom he receives. If you endure discipline, Yahuah is treating you as sons. For what son is there whom a father does not discipline? But if you are without discipline, of which all have become sharers, then you are illegitimate and not sons. Moreover, we indeed had followers of our flesh disciplining us, and we paid them respect. Shall we not much rather be subject to the Father of Ruachs and live? Father of Ruachs, wow. For they indeed disciplined us for a few days as seemed best to them, but he does it for our profit, so that we might share his set apartness. See that? He wants you to stop behaving the way the heathen behave, the unbelievers behave. Start sharing in his set apartness. And indeed, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but grievous. But afterward, it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. So strengthen the hands which hang down and the weak knees, and make straight paths for your feet, lest the lame be turned aside, but instead to be healed. Pursue peace with all, and pursue set apartness, without which no one shall see the master. That's powerful stuff right there, folks. Let that sink in. Pursue peace with all, and pursue set apartness, without which no one shall see the master. You must be set apart. It's a salvation issue. You can't be part of this world. If you make yourself part of this world, or friends with this world, you are an enemy of Yahuah. See to it that no one falls short of the favor of Yahuah, that no root of bitterness springing up causes trouble, by which many become defiled, lest there be anyone who whores or profane one like Esau, who for a single meal sold his birthright. For you know that afterward, when he wished to inherit the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place for repentance, though he sought it with tears. He sought it with tears. For you have not drawn near to a mountain touched and scorched with fire, and to blackness and darkness and storm, and the sound of a trumpet and a voice of words, so that those who heard it begged that no further word should be spoken to them. For they could not bear what was commanded. If even a beast touches the mountain, it shall be stoned or shot through with an arrow. And so fearsome was the sight that Moses said, I exceedingly fear and tremble. But you have drawn near to Mount Zion and to the city of the living Yahuah, to the heavenly Jerusalem, the myriads of messengers, to the entire gathering and assembly of the firstborn, having been enrolled in heaven, and to Yahuah, the judge of all, and to the ruachs of righteous men made perfect. So what is this talking about? To the entire gathering and assembly of the firstborn, having been enrolled in heaven. So if you're part of Israel, you become the firstborn. You're the bride. You're going to experience the first resurrection. You're the first fruits, along with Yahuah, along with Yahusha. Yahusha is the firstborn of the dead, firstborn of the resurrection, and so are we. If you're the bride, if you're Yisrael, and you are enrolled in heaven, so your name is written in the heaven as the assembly of the firstborn. You are the firstborn to Yahuah. All first fruits belongs to Yahuah. All firstborn belongs to Yahuah. And if you entered to the entire gathering and assembly of the firstborn or the body of Yahusha, you have been enrolled in the heavens as the firstborn offered to Yahuah, and you'll be part of the first resurrection group, the bride. And to Yahuah, the judge of all, and to the ruachs of righteous men made perfect through set apartness. Through set apartness in the literal carbon copy world and set apart in the spiritual world. As we walk in spirit and truth, we're set apart to Yahuah. And to the ruachs of righteous men, they're set apart, made perfect in our set apartness, in our opposition to everyone else, and to the world, and to the devil, and to the demons. What does that mean? That means we're behaving like Yahuah. We act like Yahuah. We have the character of Yahuah. Man made perfect. Integrity and character of Yahuah. Your set apartness. By knowing him and pursuing to know him, we understand his set apartness, and we enter into his set apartness, and we become set apart, and we become the ruachs of righteous men. Our ruachs become righteous and made perfect through our set apartness, which is totally opposition to the world and to other people and to the Satan and his demons. We have become like Yahuah. And to Yahusha, the mediator of a renewed covenant. and to the blood of the sprinkling, which speaks better than the blood of Abel. Take heed not to refuse the one speaking, for if those did not escape who refused the warning on the Eretz, much less we who turn away from him from heaven, whose voice shook the Eretz then. But now he has promised, saying, Yet once more I shake not only the Eretz, but also the heaven. He will destroy the earth and the heaven with fire, folks. The elements will melt. Very few men will be left. And this, yet once more, makes clear the removal of what is shaken as having been made, so that the unshaken things might remain. Therefore, receiving an unshakable reign, let us hold the favor through which we serve Yahuah pleasingly with reverence and awe. For indeed, our Yahuah is a consuming fire. Hallelujah. That concludes tonight's study, folks. I hope everybody got as much out of that as I did. Very, very, very enlightening study. And so the goal here, folks, was for us to understand that the set apartness that we've all come to know to be Qodesh, set apart to Yahuah, doesn't only exist in the spiritual realm as we walk in spirit and truth, and Yahuah calls us out of the world, out of our body, out of away from the fallen Malachim, out of their influence, away from men's teachings, men's traditions, the lust of the eyes, the pleasures of this world, and brings us into the spiritual dimension where truth and love resides, and says, you're set apart to me. You're mine. You're my treasured possession. Walk in the spirit and truth until I give you, come back and bring you your immortal body and give you an immortal body. And so he sets our Ruach apart from our flesh and from this world. And we are in with Mashiach in Yahuah, separated until he comes, the day of redemption, till he comes back and gives us our immortal bodies, right? Also, we must remain, as we went through our rebirth, and we're sanctified and going through our rebirth and everything, became spiritual children. All of a sudden, we wake up and we're back here on this. We're still on this planet, right? We're still walking in the dust, and we're still trapped inside these fleshly bodies, right? Which is being tormented and disciplined and still sinning and doing all the things it's not supposed to do. And so we battle it and we fight against it to remain set apart, so we don't collaborate with the enemy. We're always battling and fighting against it, trying to keep it from doing what it wants to do, because we don't want any part of it anymore, right? And so it's a hard battle, but we win. We can win the battles as time goes on if we stay in feeding on the words of truth, the manna from heaven. We weaken the body. But in the meantime, we're stuck here in this reality. We say, well, I'm still walking. I'm still in this fleshly body, right? And so now what we need to do is in this literal fleshly world, carbon copied existence here, we need to set ourselves apart even within this world. Even as we walk in the dust and we get contamination on us, just merely because we're here. We need to wash our feet from time to time and get that contamination, that filth off of us from time to time. Sometimes we become so familiar with our surroundings in this world that we start missing things, and we quit realizing, oh, I've been contaminated. And so then we have to depend on our brothers and sisters in the brotherhood to see us, to say, hey, let me wash your feet. You've got some contamination on you from this world. And so they wash our feet and get it off of us, although we are clean altogether because of our water immersion. And so as we walk in this world, we need to remember to be set apart. And that means don't act like the people in this world act. We have to act in opposition of them. When they hate you, you love them. Okay? When they steal, you give. When they cheat, you be honest. It's the total opposite of what they're doing is what set apartness is. And you're surrounded by good things, all things from Yahuah. And we imitate Yahuah and emulate Yahuah, his integrity and his character. And as long as we walk on this dust, that's what we do. And that's what set apartness is in this literal world. Okay? So I hope everybody understands that now. The set apartness in this carbon copy world and set apartness in the spiritual dimension. And we are to be set apart in both dimensions. Okay? And there we go. So appreciate everybody being here. Don't forget tomorrow, Nazarene, we're going to assemble in obedience to Torah and study scripture together, worship Yahuah together as one in one voice. And it's a fun thing we do. It's on the same channel, Sparking You is Yah. We assemble at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Nazarene come together, and it's what we call a scriptural study group. And we all get to read scripture. We all get to speak and interpret, translate the scriptures as Yahuah gives us the knowledge to do so. And we learn really the way we're supposed to be learning. We take every verse, every conversation, and we look at it and try to understand it the best that we can with the help of the Ruach, of course. And so please come and join us. If you've never been there, you're missing out. It's a lot of fun. And you definitely get to know Yahuah. And we're absolutely pursuing to know Yahuah. And so we get to learn about his set apartness. And so we can become set apart and be obedient to his set apart command. So, if you've never been there, come join us. Everybody's welcome. We have 10 slots, live broadcast boxes that you can come into. If they're filled up, just join the chat room. If not, if you don't want to do that, you can be incognito. Just listen. Just observe, listen, follow along in your scriptures, your favorite translation. Follow along with us and try to keep up best you can. You're sure to learn a lot. That I can promise you. So, be there or be square. And remember to stay in love with Yahusha. So long, Nazarene, beloved of Yahuah. So long, everybody. See you next week. Remember to be set apart to Yahuah.